In this section, I'll be going over the basics of automation inside of Ableton. Make sure you download the live pack called Ableton Basics Follow Along and open that up so that way you can follow along with what I'll be going over. If you're not familiar with what automation is, it's when you have a function or parameter that changes over time without you actually pushing the button or turning the knob. There's two main places inside of Ableton that you'll be doing most of your automation. The first is inside of the clip using this envelope box, and the next is over inside of the arrangement view. We'll start with the clips inside of the session view, and then we'll move over into the arrangement view. So the first thing to look at is what can we automate and how do we get automation into one of these clips. If we go down to this envelopes box, you'll see that there are some drop-down menus inside of here. And you get access to this envelopes box by hitting this little E circle, or this little circle with the E in it. And then you'll see that this box pops up. And now when we're in this envelope view, then I can go to my mixer, or I can go to the clip specifically, and I can adjust these different settings inside of the clip. Or in my mixer, I have access to these other settings here. So we'll start with the clip, and what I'll do is I'll duplicate this Ellie Goulding clip. So then we'll have two of them, just so you can see that when you automate within one clip, it doesn't necessarily apply it to the next clip. So what I'll do is in this Ellie Goulding, I'll go under clip and I'll go under volume. And then you'll see that we have this dashed line that appears on the top of the waveforms. And then if I hover my mouse over it, you'll see that there becomes like this yellow kind of dot. And if I click, it'll draw in that one dot. And then if I add in another dot, I can start to move it around. And now I'm adding in automation. So this is just volume automation. So when I hit play, you shouldn't hear anything for a second, and then it'll come in and get louder, and then it'll fade out. If I go to this other clip though and I hit play, you see how that automation disappears. So now if I hit play, you should just hear her vocals like you normally would. It's a little blurry how the whole thing started. And that's adding automation within just one clip. So we'll go back to this other one, and you'll see that the automation's still there. And if I want to remove that automation, I can just highlight that area and hit delete. One thing to understand is that when you have this envelopes box open, that everything that you do inside of this window is editing the envelopes within that clip. So if I turn off this E, now I can't, there's no dashed line, there's nothing for me to edit anymore. All right, so we'll keep that open. And the other thing is, if you want to add in automation, I can turn on my pencil tool and I can draw in automation, which will sound a little bit different, and it's going to sound a little bit more choppy because it has this kind of block step kind of going on. So when you use your pencil tool, it'll add it depending on the grid lines and the size of the grid. So if I zoom in more, you'll see that there's more grid lines, and I'm able to add in these kind of smaller adjustments. So then I can zoom out, and you'll see that it looks different now. And if I hit play on that, it's going to sound different than it did before. It's a little blurry how the whole thing started. I don't even really know. So that is adding automation in using your pencil tool. So we'll get rid of all of this, and you see that once I get rid of my automation, once I get rid of my pencil tool, that all these dots sort of appear. So then if I wanted to, I could get rid of some of these, and let's say I wanted to make this full volume and then just have it kind of gently fade down. So that's another way of adding in automation fairly quickly, is to just maybe grab your pencil tool and draw in this one kind of blocked out part, and then get rid of it. And now all I have to do is add another dot and get rid of that first one, and I've got a slope instead of just a straight drop off. The other way to add in automation would be to record it in. So I'll get rid of all this automation, and I'll show you how you can record in automation. The first thing we'll need to do is we'll need to record arm this track, so that way Ableton knows that we want to add in we want to record something into this track right now that we have the Ellie Goulding acapella on. Now we can click on this button right here, which is adding in manual automation. So we're telling Ableton that we want to automate some parameter, and you can click on this little red circle, and you'll see that this play button will start to turn red, and Ableton will know that we want to record automation into this track.
It's a little blurry how the whole thing started. I don't even really know what you intended.
So you can see that as I move that fader up and down, now Ableton knows that we wanted to change the volume of this track. So that's how you can record in automation. One thing I'll point out really quickly is that if you go to this other clip, you'll see that the automation goes away. So if I hit play on this other Ellie Goulding clip, you'll see that the red dot on this fader goes away, and that it'll be playing the vocals from this other Ellie Goulding clip with no automation in it.
It's a little blurry how the whole thing started. It's a little blurry how the whole thing started.
So you see that there's volume automation in one clip, but not in the other. And then also, if let's say you have a MIDI controller, so if instead of just grabbing this and clicking and holding and moving around with your mouse, if you have a MIDI controller, then what you can do is you can map your MIDI controller to a parameter. So I'll get rid of this automation. We'll reset the level on this a little bit, and I'll hit MIDI map, and then I'll click on this panning parameter, and I'll turn my knob on my MIDI controller, and you see that it pops up here in the MIDI mappings. And then if I exit MIDI, now you'll see that this knob turns. So if you want some smoother automations, then sometimes using a knob or a fader, an actual knob or fader on some MIDI controller helps to make that a lot easier. So I'll hit the record button again, and then I'll add in some automation using the knob.
It's a little blurry how the whole thing started. I don't even really know what you intended. Thought that you were cute and you could make.
Alright, so you can see how it's a lot smoother, and I added in a whole bunch of automation just by twisting a knob. And you'll see that this little red block appears on the pan knob, so that way I know that there's automation on that parameter. Now let's say you don't have a MIDI controller and you want to add in some more gentle kind of curvy fades. Then what we can do is we can go to this other clip, and since we have our mixer and our track pan already selected because that's the last thing that we automated, what I can do is I can go in here and I can add a dot, and then I can add another one, and we'll just make some straight lines, and then we can do, let's see, add in that. So now we have something that's similar to what we did in the other one. And then if I hold Option, so if I zoom in here, you'll see that I can highlight just one dot, or I can highlight this whole segment between the two dots. And then if I hold Option, you'll see this little curvy line appears right next to my mouse. And then if I click and drag up, you'll see that it adds a curve, and I can start to move it around a bit. So I can make the slope on that change a little bit. So I can add these kind of curvy fades. So I'll zoom out of that. And then you'll see if I hit play on the first Ellie Goulding that it'll use the automation that we did with the knob on the MIDI controller, and then I'll hit play on this next one so you can see the automation that we added in just now using the mouse.
It's a little blurry how the whole thing started. I don't even really know what you intended. Thought that you were cute and you come. It's a little blurry how the whole thing started. I don't even really know what you intended. Thought that you were cute and you come.
Those are just a lot of different ways to add in clip automation to different parameters just within the clips. And again, I can go in, I can highlight this, and I can delete that automation so we don't have it anymore. Another thing I can do is, let's say I added automation into this first one and I really liked it. I can go in, I can copy, and then I can go into the other one and I can select and paste. So now we have that automation added in to this one just the same way that we had that automation in the other clip. So that's another really quick way of moving automation around too. So let's say you spent some time working on automation for one clip, and then you wanted to add it in for other clips. You can either just duplicate that clip, or you can, let's say you had a different section kind of selected in here. So I can add my cursor there, I can paste, and now you see I added that automation to a different part of this audio clip. So it's the same clip, but maybe I wanted that automation in a different part. So now you know how to add automation, delete automation, copy and paste automation. You can draw in automation, you can record in automation. There's a lot of different things that you can do with automation just within the clip and using these envelopes.